Okay. There you are.
It is. There it is. How you doing?
I'm good. Yes, girl. Yes. Yeah. You better.
So I had an afro not like 2 hours ago. And at that moment, I was like, shoot, that would have been perfect because I got a black beret.
Listen, I've been running around doing errands all day with a side pony. And I said, you know what? Because today, we here with it. Okay? We are so here today.
Like,
listen. We're going to talk about this because, okay, first of all, let me introduce the people to who you are.
Okay.
So Pistachio, I met Pistachio on a AFCA roundtable discussion. And I mean, one question, but you are one of those critics, just from that one question, one roundtable. I know that you're one who likes to dissect and comb through some story and find out some layers, whether it's about the writers or what the film is about. So that's what I appreciated. It wasn't just a foo-foo question. You know, you really threw something out there for the writers to talk about. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I see you. Okay.
Right.
But so no, I wanted to have you on. This is Pistachio from Pistachio's Film Reviews. Everybody, welcome to the She Critiques podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So today, because this is the first episode of my second season.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much. And this will be for Black History Month, the first episode in February. Awesome. And I said we have to talk about these amazing Black films that are coming out, but specifically Judas and the Black Messiah, because I just saw it. We were supposed to talk about Forrest Gump, everybody. We were supposed to talk about Forrest Gump, have a good time, talk about some feathers and stuff. Curious George.
I probably at this point don't even need to watch it anymore to like really get into some themes and talk about characters and talk about how Tom Hanks is probably one of the best actors ever. But so when you said like, yo, let's flip it, I was like, appropriate, totally. So I was ready either way. Yeah.
I appreciate it. So okay, let's dig into Judas and the Black Messiah. Can you give the people just like a quick synopsis of what the film is about?
Sure. So it's directed by Shaka. It's inspired by true events. And it's essentially about a man. His name is William O'Neill. He was a petty criminal. He gets caught by the police for impersonating a law enforcement official trying to steal someone's car. He's looking at maybe like 5 to 6 years, depending on those crimes. But that police officer, that agent who nabs him, his name is Agent Mitchell. He offers Bill O'Neill an opportunity to infiltrate the Black Panther Party Chicago chapter, which is led by Fred Hampton. So he actually does, and he is successful at doing this. And all of this is a part of J. Edgar Hoover's administration, his FBI's COINTELPRO, that was a counterintelligence investigation into what they perceived the Black Panther Party to be, a domestic terror organization. Bill's actions led to the assassination of Mark Clark and Fred Hampton. And Fred Hampton was 21 years old when he passed away. Incredible narrative. I remember, and I know we have a schedule, but I remember like just shutting my eyes for a minute and trying to remember how I remembered Fred Hampton talking. And I did the same thing, not to tangent, but I did the same thing with Eli Gore in One Night in Miami.
Okay.
Because I wanted to feel like I was really watching him, and it felt genuine to me. But that's a brief synopsis.
Okay. I mean, so many layers, so many of the things that I want to talk about with this film, right? So Let me introduce the cast first. We have Lakieth Stanfield, Daniel Kaluuya, we have Dominque Fishback, Jesse Plemons. Those are our main characters. Oh, and I can't forget Ashton Sanders.
Yes. And Algee Smith.
Yes. And you know what I appreciate about that? That they grabbed this young cast of Black actors, Black men. Because for a long time, all we know is Jamie, Denzel, I mean, that's about the list. That's about the list.
Will?
Oh, I'm sorry, Will. Yes.
But it is over. So I'm 30. Over my 30, it's been consistent. Like Will was a summer blockbuster guy. Jamie was the triple threat doing the this and the that and the comedy and whatever. Denzel was like, I'm gonna get you during holiday season. It's a movie that's gonna come out that's gonna blow you away. And he's been consistent with that. But you're absolutely right. This film did a really good job with bringing in some fresh, even though some of those actors had been in some really acclaimed things.
They're still at the budding stages of their acting careers.
Right.
So I appreciate just seeing these young, and they didn't grab a couple of no names and say, okay, we're just going to throw them in here because they don't really matter. They grabbed some people who had some credits, and have a little bit of a buzz, and knowing that this film could potentially take them to a new level. I appreciate that. And they did amazing. All four of them, these brothers really held it down. I'm in love with Ashton Sanders. He's amazing. Love him. Algee, I was skeptical about Algee at first. I was like, oh, they threw Algee up in here.
Right.
Maybe because I'm thinking of New Edition, Kid Bopper, like how is this going to play into him being a hardcore Black Panther? I'm not sure.
And he did that. Like he really did it though. Because I was saying, this is not Algee playing Ralph Tresvant. This is not Algee in Euphoria. Like he's like, I was in Detroit, Catherine Bigelow.
Yes.
I'm gonna be in this, and it really seeing them. You brought up a really good point. Even the smaller characters, their roles were actually essential to the narrative of the story, like of the film. So like understanding like how Ashton Sanders' character comes to be and how that affects everybody in the group, right? Yes. Like a lot of that, which I attest to the writing, I guess too, but the casting director gets pats on the shoulder from me because it was just like seamless. Even Jermaine Fowler, he's in it. Like even like in different acts, they start bringing in and taking out some people, and I'm like, this is really well done. Yeah.
Very well written. I mean, I can't give enough of the flowers to Mr. Daniel Kaluuya and Lakieth Stanfield. Let me tell you, because Lakeith is he got that weirdo vibe to him, but I love that he can dibble dabble in so many different lanes. Love it. And
he's showing early how much of a chameleon he can be. Like, he can go from Boots Riley, Sorry to Bother You, like a kind of Afrofuturism-ish quirk.
Yes, to the dude one of your cousins in Atlanta, you know him.
Right. Like he over here, he rides skateboards, but he also know like 90s hip hop like the back of his hand, but he also like plays the violin or something like when you can't really piece him.
Yes. And I love that because he's not going to allow Hollywood to put him in that box.
Love it.
All for it. So yes, this cast, I mean, the actors, all of them phenomenal. The actors, Dominque, let's not forget about our sister Dominque, because you know what I appreciated about this film was seeing those beautiful Black features with them afros. They didn't beat us up with a whole bunch of makeup. No, they said, we're going to let you lay in that bed with your afro popping, lips on swole. Like, what's up?
I put in my review, I have been waiting for Dominque Fishback because the first time I saw her was in The Deuce. I was like,
I loved it. Ooh, girl.
And so I have a little artist to watch list, and she has always been on it. So then when she was in Project Power last summer with Jamie, I was like, okay, like she's dipping into, because that role could have been for a male. She's dipping into these roles that are like versatile, that can show like range. Like I'm getting that from her. What I loved about this performance though, it was subdued. It was very personal and intimate. It brought the other side of Fred Hampton out. It wasn't the I'm standing in front of the stage, Black Panther Party chairman for Chicago chapter. Like you could get a real sense of the intimacy that both of them shared. And I think also that Deborah Johnson, who's still living, actually talk to Dominque about her portrayal of the role and what actually is she trying to get into. And I think I read something that said Daniel Kaluuya talked to like her as well and to Fred Hampton Jr. about like their purpose. Like what are you trying to get out of doing this portrayal? What type of authenticity are you planning to bring? Like what, and I can understand someone who's still living being skeptical about a story that is so traumatic,
right?
That brutalized their family, that scar tissue is still fresh, and having someone you have to trust
that somebody's
the writers, the person that's going to portray you to really get it in a way that feels authentic. And I would love to actually know what Fred Hampton Jr. and Miss Deborah Johnson think about it, like think about the film, because blown away for me.
Absolutely.
She was fantastic.
You know what? All around, definitely a 5-star film for me. But we are going to comb through this because it's what strikes me. Is the title, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Fitting,
huh?
Very fitting.
I mean, yes. But it made me go through my mental Rolodex of all the betrayals of like best friends situation scenarios that we've seen on film. Like it gave me I thought of Julius the Caesar, the play of Brutus, and have Fredo, and you have I mean the list goes on. I'm thinking of what was the old boy's name in Paid in Full that Cameron played? Was it Rico? Well, it wasn't Rico.
No. My black card is being revoked as we speak. No. I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But all these men, a lot of times they say men, their downfall is a woman. But from a lot of these films, it be your homeboy. So
we're gonna have to switch up that narrative. It seems like the art, it's looking like that ain't quite accurate, right?
That don't seem like it's accurate anymore. But so yes, Judas and the Black Messiah, this man, who infiltrated as a Black Panther for years, and rebuilding the headquarters and being on the ground and doing his due diligence. I don't want to should we give it away? I mean, it's a true story, so people should know the story. But to see him at the very end in that interview, and it was weighing on him. It was weighing on him that he had turned, that he participated in the assassination of Fred Hampton. So, I mean, from your perspective, just the stories that we know of the best friends who have betrayed or been in those situations, they turn somebody in or they rat or they snitch. What are your own personal thoughts?
I thought, so there's a lot of stuff about this particular narrative that is similar to a lot of buddy-buddy relationships gone bad that we've seen. Shakespeare, and then on and on and on to Godfather and Paid in Full, like you said. And that type of story theme is not new.
Right.
The difference is that my interpretation of it is that Bill O'Neill thought that he was getting time reduced to help the FBI, which even at this time, this is post MLK assassination, this is post Malcolm assassination. This is fresh for them. Like they even talk about that in the film, right? So there's a social party that is being surveyed by the FBI. When Jesse Plemons' character, the agent, asked Bill O'Neill, Lakieth, how he felt about MLK's death, in my mind, I was like, I see what exactly he's trying to do. He's trying to get into the psyche of this person to see if he can manipulate him to do things down the line. So when Plemons found out like that J. Edgar Hoover had already had an informant in the party, that guy that said that, he put...
Oh, yes. Yes, shout out to him, Terrell. He's from Atlanta. I've seen him. I see him all the time, so he's doing big things. But yes.
So when Agent Mitchell found out he had gotten got by J. Edgar Hoover, thinking that he was all in that power structure himself and understanding there was levels to it. I'm thinking to myself, okay, Bill probably thought, I'm trying to get out. I'm not trying to spend 6 years in prison. I'm gonna try to get some money. I'm gonna get this, get this going. And he, even after he went to Fred Hampton after he got out of prison and said like he was like conspiring to blow up City Hall or something, and Fred was like, "What are you doing?" Like, no, that's not what it is.
Right.
He's wearing a wire. He had already told Mitchell like, this party is not like the Black Panther Party is not about terrorists, like terrorism. They're about organization.
Feeding.
And you can see that. You can see, like, even in prison, Fred Hampton was trying to recruit people to come together. Like
the people.
Like outside of prison, you saw him go to Confederate flag laced places to get poor whites. You go to a funeral of Puerto Ricans in Chicago, get them to get into this movement about police brutality. That is my interpretation. And so when around the third act or so, when Bill is still trying to figure it out for himself, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Or why am I doing this? But he continues to feed the government information. I'm thinking to myself, oh no, he full on like there's no redemption for him. Like how far after he sat in front of Mitchell in that restaurant and said, what, y'all are trying to assassinate him or something? And Mitchell didn't like flinch. And he still gave the information. I think in that point I was just like, look. And so when at the end of the film where they actually showed the documentary clip of his, his only documentary or his own recollection of what happened, I was thinking to myself, okay, from 1969 to 1992, yeah, you was in witness protection, but what was going through your mind over those 20-something years where you're just like, not guilt, or I don't know. Like,
what? I love that you said like there's just no, it's almost like he got to a place of just no redemption, and he knew that. But that was a pivotal moment, because up until that point, he could have walked away and said, you know what, I'm just not doing this anymore. Up until like before this man was assassinated. But what I love about that scene was so eerie to me is that it felt like a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
It felt like you're making a deal with the devil. Like, do you realize, that you're sitting across from this white man who wants to kill, he would kill you if he had the opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, it was that, it took me to Passion of the Christ. And when, I don't know what that little thing was that portrayed the devil, but gave, a bag of silver or whatever it was to Judas. It was like, ooh, like this is a deal with the devil. And I love that I don't know if of course they consciously shot it somewhat to resemble something like that, but it was just like the sliding of the money and that like you're making a deal with the devil, but also, I mean, not to get too spiritual, but when you make a deal with the devil, the karma that comes back around, that inner turmoil, which is what we saw him going through.
Did you have anxiety? So you had knowledge about Fred Hampton prior to seeing this film, right? Like you understood and knew. Did you know about like the Black Panther Party?
Oh, I know. I mean, I know of. I don't know. I can honestly say I have not done the research that I should have, or that I should be doing. I know of. I know, the pivotal moments.
Right.
I know some things. I don't know everything. So What were you going to say though?
Because I started the film, and throughout the film, like I felt like no scene was wasted. There are scenes that I just took mental snapshots of because I just thought they were beautiful, like cinematography wise.
So beautiful.
But I was anxious the entire film because I knew what was going to happen. I just didn't know how they were going to get there. Because it's inspired by true stories. This isn't an observational documentary, even though they did give a good chunk in the beginning to get people aware of what the Black Panther Party was striving to do, that documentary footage, before we got Lakieth dressed as Bill O'Neill, which we then
Right.
see the real person at the end of the movie. But I just thought that this was a good nerve-wracking experience, because I sat on the edge of my seat. I felt like when the shootout happened, when all of these things happened, and they were shot so beautifully, that like, what else are y'all going to do to me? Like, please, I'm trying not to cry, tear up, because in my mind, I wasn't watching Daniel Kaluuya. In my mind, I wasn't watching Dominque Fishback or Lakieth Stanfield. I thought in moments that I was watching the real thing.
Right.
And I was so happy to see at the end, even though it was traumatic, how they ended the story. Like, it wasn't torturous.
Like black trauma, like what they call it, like video trauma, black porn trauma or something.
Because we have had this, at the end of this film, I started thinking about Trayvon. I started thinking about Eric Garner. I started thinking about Michael Brown. I started thinking about Philando Castile. I started thinking about George Floyd. I started thinking about a whole Sandra Bland. I just thought about all of the people since I left college. College, senior year in college for me was Trayvon, and understanding how this movement has continue to change over time. So yeah, we had BPP, we had all of these other movements, religious movements too. How then Rodney King, I was very young when that happened. And then till today, how timely this film is based on the social environment that we're in.
Yes.
But in that, I was saying to myself, I really wonder what Huey Newton would think about how America has not changed so much since then. I wonder, 21-year-old Fred Hampton, had he lived today, I wonder how he would have felt seeing how far we've gotten since then. We are still collectively having to tell people about police brutality, and they still don't get it. But also, we can watch on live TV people try to overthrow the government with no repercussions, or if they do get justice, it's going to be a very long. The justice that we get is an immediate shot to the head. Yeah. The justice that they get is maybe paying someone off later. And so this film made me angry.
Yeah. You know, because first of all, something about the film feels very divine timing, because they couldn't have predicted when they shot this film the time that we would be in right now.
Right.
And I'm seeing a lot of that though. Like, things have just orchestrated so serendipitous, you know?
Yep.
And I've been having so many of these conversations. So, I mean, this moment I think is divine as well, because I work as a freelance producer in Atlanta, and I just came from doing a show in New York, and they had a conversation about race. You know, this was the week of the U.S. Capitol storming, the week of, and the people on the show had a conversation about racism in America. And these people have known each other for 30 years, and their views have not changed, not for the better. And the same day I went home and I wept. Like, this is the first time I know the George Floyds, I know Trayvon Martins, like, I know all of these people. These are my cousins, my uncles, everybody, you know, Breonna Taylor. But this was the first time I felt like the connection of like, the exhaustion of people of color, of this movement, like the exhaustion, like that was not a glimmer of hope. What we saw happen at the Capitol just felt like there is no hope. And that weight of like, girl, I don't know, I had to look it up. I said, is this like ancestral trauma that I'm feeling right now? Like, seriously, like, I felt the weight of, I cried for Breonna Taylor, I cried for the George Floyds, like, and the Emmett Tills. And I felt the weight of the ancestors. Like, do you know what we have been through?
We're still mourning Emmett Till, who died 50 years ago. Like, when I lived in Atlanta for 3 years. I just moved back up here in 2019. I went to the Smithsonian, the African American History and Culture, and I went into the Emmett Till exhibit. And when I left, like, I'm hands in, like, crying in a corner, not understanding how close that still feels, those images of his face. Mm-hmm. And then for popular media like Lovecraft Country to put that into their story. Even in this film, they talked about Emmett Till, somebody babysitting.
Yes, they did.
And also the civil rights workers, so Mississippi Burning, the civil rights workers who were killed, Mississippi sheriff kills them, the FBI comes in. Jesse Plemons is playing an agent who also worked in that case. So all of these things are intersect. MLK, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King, like all of this stuff is in line, right? And in this moment, in this film, I'm thinking about all of these different tangents of history that are still open wounds. Like, we are still, those 3 men dying in Mississippi for voter rights, and then we got people who are trying to disenfranchise Black people in Georgia as we speak. Like, a lot of this stuff, like you said, ancestral trauma. I love that art is really bringing this out as a conversation starter. Yeah. Because I feel like there's at a point, and I don't know if you feel the same way, where people who don't look like us won't get or receive the message about how we feel from us. Mm-hmm. They'll consider it. Mm-hmm. But until someone who looks like them tells them that they're wrong, yes, you don't get to have an opinion about my identity. You don't get to tell me you don't like X about me and it be a core thing to my identity here, right? Yes. But what I do appreciate Shaka doing and the producers doing was taking the time, understanding the story, mm-hmm. getting it in the editing, the cinematography, getting it right. Yeah. And bringing a full project that felt whole is what I appreciated. Yeah.
And let's talk about also, because one of the things that was brought up in the film, like their number one fear, these white FBI agents who are, trying to figure out how to take down the Black Panther Party, specifically Fred Hammond. But one of their fears were their white daughters. Let's take a breather for that. But their fear of their white daughters. So you were saying, your point of, how far have we come, or have we come far at all from when the movement started? And then I wonder, on their side, I mean, did they protect their white daughters from Black men? With 30 years later, or, did that work out for y'all?
I'm on the line of, I don't care who you love. Mm-hmm. I don't mind anyone having their preferences. If they're rooted in prejudice, keep it over there. Mm-hmm. I am not out here with, I'm not out here with the viewpoint that you can't love who you want. Right. We have come to a point where anybody choosing to be being in love with someone is their business, mm-hmm. regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, whatever. Just leave Black women out of it. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have your relationship, try your best not to equate it to what you perceive Black women ain't gonna do for you. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yes. I'm 100%. I 100% agree with that statement. There's no reason why, in saying and vocalizing your preferences, you have to downgrade or downplay or diminish or disrespect anyone else. Because I'm not going to name any rappers or, anybody like that, but we see it so often. So in this, oh, girl, can we talk about what happened in Harlem? This Black woman going into the liquor store to get a bottle of wine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even need to say anymore. If you have not looked up that story, please go check it out. Because when we say in one sentence, protect Black women, and then this happens.
But then the whole borough showed up. Like, I was shocked at that.
I was shocked at that.
I was like, oh, they're really trying to find them. Because that would have been my point. It would have been, y'all scream protect Black women until it's time to. And then there's another video of the whole hood.
The whole hood outside the liquor store. Where they at? And guess what? Somebody is going to tell them where they at. But that's the type of, because we show up for them like that. We show up for them like that. So, I mean, that warmed my whole soul. So let's tie it to the film. Was Dominque Fishback protected in this film?
I feel like the women, not even just Dominque, but the I can't remember the actress's name, but the one with the afro that had the gun pointed at O'Neal, because she suspected from how the crowns were maneuvering around Bill O'Neal when he was with them,
Dominique Thorne, that's her name. Dominique Thorne, she was Judy in the film.
So at the beginning, when Bill O'Neal was in the training and he was like trying to holler at somebody, and Fred Hampton was like, you treat them with respect, those are your sisters, you don't, la la la. I thought that was a great intro into Judy, because it was like, Judy can handle her own, as we saw in the shootout. Like,
yeah,
the women in this film, outside of Dominque Fishback's character, because that relationship was a little bit more intimate, it was between her and Fred, but the other extra women, it was like they are just as vigilant as the men.
They are as valuable to the organization. Just, they can hold their own. Yes, right. They made them equals in the sense of power.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily the way this film is structured for role-wise, but it's Fred's story, but definitely equal in the sense of power and value.
Right. And so I was thinking about that. I was like, women in the movement. I think about Kathleen Cleaver. I think about, like the ones that media tried to push out there. Right. But I think, it was hard because it was very few frames of it. Because we kind of focused a lot more on like Bill. Because it was essentially, this is his story, but showing that, they were sharp. They were on it. They were a part of leadership. They were doing this and doing that. They weren't just secretaries or, whatever at the offices. That was really worthwhile, I think, to portray.
Absolutely. I agree. I just want to, is there anything you want to bring up this film before we talk about any takeaways?
The only thing I wanted to bring up was halfway through, there was a shot, and I had to stop it and look up who the cinematographer was. And his name is Sean Bobbitt. He's the same cinematographer who
that man right there,
12 Years a Slave. And I have seen 12 Years a Slave one time. I will never need to see it again, because I remember so many scenes about it being the most beautiful things I think I've seen on film, which is hard to say for it to be a slave film that held it like so high up there, but the art was good.
Yeah.
He is the cinematographer for this movie, and I want to talk to him because directors of photography are essential as the director.
Yes.
And knowing that there was trust between Sean and Shaka, I just want to understand that relationship, because breathtaking scene. That scene with O'Neal in the room, and it's like amber red on one side and green on the other. And the silhouette of him, he's looking off to the green side. It was perfect symbolism of where his mind was. Like, you can just see his silhouette. He's like anxious. But that one scene, I was just like, yo, what is this? This is art. Like the film was already, I mean, that just heightened it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about was the cinematography.
Well, and because it got me on the first opening scene with Bill walking. There's a shot of the camera following Bill, but the colors while he's following, and then it kind of pans to the street. Beautiful. I said, "Oh, this is nice." You know, like this is beautiful.
One more thing, I like that this film was extreme close-ups.
Yeah.
They were tilted up when like Fred was in front of crowds. So you really got to a lot of his emotion from right here. Like right here. And that happened most often when it was Fred, right? But then also at the end when Dominque is standing there with the gun to her belly and they push in on her after they shot him. I was like, yo, they are really meticulous about these decisions on when and how they use these close-ups. So yeah, that the cinematography is like
phenomenal. But anywho, so the takeaways from this film, what life takeaways for you?
Watch your people.
Listen.
Keep your cards close to your chest, and as my grandmother said, treat people with a long handled spoon.
Do you think, Fred, was there ever a red flag that Bill was a culprit besides the shout out when they met with the Crowns? Do you think Bill ever dropped his act?
I think they did a good job portraying the moments where he almost got. I would have thought at the moment when Bill even suggested that they blow something up, that Fred would have been like, that's odd. He would have known that that's not a part of the philosophy. He's a lieutenant and head of security. Where did that ideology come from? Right. Because they were feeding kids and schooling kids and trying to fight police brutality by bringing other organizations into what their mission was. And so for somebody out of left field to be like, hey, let's go blow up City Hall.
Right. Yeah. Now I will say that didn't tip me, because I didn't know what was to happen afterwards when he actually pulls the wire. I said, oh, he was wired. When he said it, I actually thought that he just wanted this all to be over with. And he knew if we blow this up, they're going to kill us, and then I can be free, because they wouldn't have killed him. You know, I thought he was really just like, I'm just trying to blow up the whole situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's just go down with a bang. But anywho, I love your life takeaway. Watch the company that you keep. And let's trickle on into the rest of this episode. So just a few brief segments. Films that you are looking forward to in 2021. Let the people know.
Shoot, I'm gonna be honest. It's basically all the stuff that I was looking forward to in 2020 that they pushed back. So, so since Warner Brothers, made that deal with HBO Max, a lot of the stuff I'm gonna see, like Space Jam. I was gonna watch this if they didn't send it to me. For me, I'm a Marvel head. Like my bathroom is nothing but Marvel, Black Panther, Storm. So I'm looking forward to Black Widow and Eternals and Shang-Chi and Spider-Man. Like I'm interested in that. But then there's a movie I remembered it coming out, the casting coming out on Deadline a couple years ago, but it's at Sundance now. It's Passing with Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson.
Oh yes, it it comes on tonight at Sundance.
Okay, yeah. So I'm interested in seeing that. And then, a lot of stuff, like, they're not Black focused specifically, but they got Black folks in it. Like, Jeffrey Wright's going to be in The French Dispatch, which is a Wes Anderson film that's supposed to be coming out this summer. Okay. It was supposed to come out last year. But honestly, there have been a lot of, like, popcorn movies that I haven't really gotten, because a lot of the studios are like trying to find ways to get their 2020 productions out and recoup, right? So to me, it's probably a whole bunch of 2020 films that couldn't be released then.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, Coming to America's on my list. I still haven't seen the Billie Holiday film.
Oh yeah.
I have to see this film because I heard amazing things about it, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Coming to America. I still haven't seen The Little Things. Denzel just came out on HBO Max.
Right. And then Aretha Franklin, J Hud's.
Oh yes. Yeah,
I forgot because they kept pushing that back, and so I guess it comes out. Look, I don't even know at this point, but like, yeah, that too, yeah.
Some really good films coming out, on the lookout for 2021. And I will say, because you mentioned it earlier, One Night in Miami. Let me tell you, because that film right there, that one right there, Pistachio.
I wanted to like call, like see if I could find Kemp Powers like email and be like, bless you.
To go.
Bless you. Let me teach me your ways. Teach me your ways.
Oh, sensei. Oh, wise one.
Tell me what to be a protege. I will give my for
Kemp Powers. For people who don't know, Kemp Powers wrote Soul. Mm-hmm. Just in 2020, we got Soul and One Night in Miami from Kemp Powers.
The man is gonna be busy and booked.
That's a bad man right there. Okay, but One Night in Miami, by 2020, I know it came out this year, but I watched it in 2020. By far, hands down, the best film I had seen all 2020.
It hit me. In my review, I said it hit me in the one ab that my Peloton helped me get over quarantine. It hit me because I thought I was eavesdropping on conversations between historical figures that I didn't. And even like the cast is great, and I was shocked at like Leslie Odom Jr. I really need to give that man more credit.
Leslie Odom Jr. is by far the breakout face. I mean, girl, all we're gonna do is give a bunch of praise, because honestly, the film is like you said, I felt like a fly on the wall, and probably one of the most historical important conversations to have all four of them. That's like having
it's like a Mount Rushmore of like,
yes, of Black faces, of Black men having important conversations. Girl, it was good.
It was great.
Let's give Miss Cicely Tyson her flowers. First and foremost, can we have a moment of silence, seriously, for Miss Cicely Tyson? Miss Cicely Tyson. That hit us hard, ladies and gentlemen.
I shed a couple of thug tears the other day, so
that hit us hard. And to see a woman, 96 years old, has seen so much in the industry that we love. She's seen the ebbs and the flows. She's seen the Blaxploitation. She's been there. She's lived it. She's done it. And a life well spent, I would say, just from the outside looking in. And to see so much joy that she's had in the last few years, like someone who has clearly reinvented her career every decade, or reinvented herself every decade, and stayed true to herself, stayed so true to herself, and so true to her Black self. You know what I mean? Like,
uncompromising Black woman who said, my art is going to reflect the power in what I know Black women are, and not what y'all try to make us be. Yes.
She knew that early on. And she knew that when it wasn't even cool to know that.
Right.
So just, I would have given anything to sit under the wisdom or the tutelage, just to be in her presence. I haven't been able to, but I don't know what to say about Miss Cicely Tyson. We lost a giant. We lost an icon, the regal presence, and our thoughts and prayers are with her family and loved ones. Okay. Well, Pistachio, where can the people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's Pistachios Film Reviews. My website is pistachiofilmreviews.com. I'm also on Twitter. It's Pistach, Pistach Reviews. And yeah, that's where. Check
Thank
me out.
you for coming on the She Critiques podcast. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.